All right, so this is our sixth lesson for the semester, October 7th. So we're gonna continue working on Lumion from now on in the semester and eventually move on to twin motion. Last class, we did a very brief, introduction to Lumion. We did only, landscape, sky, sun, something very simple. And although Lumion, you can learn the basics very fast. If you, go deeper, there's a lot of details that are, that are there to make it look more realistic, right? You can take advantage of every single option regarding, light, landscapes, sculpting, materials, custom materials, all these things that are typically ignored. So I intend to, to go into a lot of detail and expand how we can use Lumion to get the best quality renderings that look, realistic in a sense, right? And that includes making renderings, making an animation, and making 360 panoramic images, right? That can give you a sense of VR experience. And we also look at, at Rhino and 3D Max as to how we can transfer files from these two softwares over to Lumion and which file types are work best with the Lumion software. So let's see, let's start here. Let me just get my computer screen ready. So the way that we're gonna do this, right? So we already have a project in 3D Max, right? We have the Barcelona Pavilion, right? Already mapped and everything. And the good thing is Lumion will accept 3D Max files. So you can open a 3D Max file directly from Lumion, and it should accept also all the materials that you already applied in 3D Max. If it doesn't, then it will at least recognize every material as its own separate layer. So once you go to Lumion, you could apply, different materials to the same elements, right? If you're working, let's say in Rhino, then we'll save it, we'll do a file export, right? And we'll do a file called Collada file. And we'll talk about that, today, yes. So today I wanna try to cover, how to export a file from Rhino, how to export a file from 3D Max, right? And then once you go to Lumion, how we can start to modify that file to better fit the program, That includes playing with the landscape and trying to get a very detailed, because typically the landscape is always ignored, in any model. You might have a beautiful 3D model, but the landscape never looks correct, So the good thing about Lumion is we can sculpt the landscape. We can make hills, we can make pools, we can, make a hillside. We can paint on any part of the landscape and we can make it look very realistic, right? So we can create pretty much any type of, of terrain, right? And that helps because it helps to really make the house or the building really fit into the site, right? And it's a lot easier than making terrain in Rhino or 3D Max. So let me start by going to, I'm gonna share my Rhino file, right? Something very simple. And again, Rhino is not my expertise. I know only the basics, right? And that's because I don't use it that often. I typically do everything in 3D Max. All right, so this is my Rhino file. Can you guys see okay?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me okay, everything?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So again, this is a very simple file, nothing, exotic. It's simply, a few items here. We have, for example, a wall. Let's say blue is a path, green is, let's say, grass. This could be water, and that could be like a box. So the idea here is, how do we get this file from here over to, first of all, Lumion, right? And that's, I think we discussed briefly last class. If you go on the layers here, right? So again, we have layer 1, layer 2, up to layer 6. And we can tell that each of these items, it's in one layer, right? So I can turn them off, by themselves, or I can turn everything off like this. But again, these layers, layer 1 through 6 has no significance for Lumion, right? Because it doesn't care about anything in this tab here. It doesn't care about the color, right? It only cares about the material name, right? That's all it cares about. So if I have sculptor, layer 1, I call it sculpture. Layer 2, I call it grass. Layer 3, I call path, So they all have their own name. And if I go inside the material tab, I haven't even assigned, it has a default plaster. There's a name here and there's a color. The color is not really important. All that matters is the name. You don't have to even assign any type of material, right? or load any map. All that Lumion cares about is that they all have their own unique name, right? And we'll do it two ways. So let me go. I'm going to, let's see here. Let's take that there, and actually no. Let's make a few more layers so you guys can see the actual. I'm gonna call this layer 07, right? Let's make a new layer, layer 8, and layer 9, right? And again, let's give these layers different colors. You can give one orange. Okay, and let's say I make some shapes here. So let's make I make this shape here. Three shapes, right? And okay, I'm gonna take this shape and I'm gonna drop it into the layer number 7. This one will make it into layer number 8, and that will make into layer number 9. And you can see that, you know, it is done properly. You know, they all have their own layer, but under the material tab, we have completely ignored this tab. We haven't given it any name. So that means that the main thing that identifies this layer is layer 7, 8, and 9, and not this name over here. So we can see once we bring this over to Lumion, what happens when you don't give, you know, proper names over here, and we use just the default layers, you know, here. So from here, how do we get this file over to Lumion? Which file did I say is recognized or it's desirable to use in Lumion?
Was it FTX, I think?
It'll be FBX, yes. But FBX typically is if it's a file either from 3D Max or Revit. Rhino has a file type that works really well with Lumion, and it's called Collada file. So I'm gonna take everything here, right? Select everything, right? I'll go to File, Export Selected. And if you go down here, right? This one here called Collada.dae, right? This is the file that works perfectly with Lumion. So I'm gonna select this file extension. I'm gonna save this into, let's see, fall 2020. I'll put it into my Lumion tutorial here. I'll save it here and call it test Rhino file. You can see it's collada.dae. Save it. Okay, so let me switch now to, and you guys know Rhino pretty well, right? I don't have to go into too much detail with Rhino, right? Okay, I assume that means yes. All right, so let me switch over now to Lumion. Where is it? 1 second. Okay. So I'm gonna pick a new file, Lumion, right? And I'm gonna do one that is just very simple like this, just plain skies and grass. And let me change the window proportion because it's going out to the full extent of my screen. 1 second. Let me know how that looks. Is this better?
Yes, it's good.
Okay. So right now, okay, we're back here in Lumion. So again, we discussed last class that in Lumion is pretty easy to move. You know, it's almost like playing a game, and that's how it's meant to be, right? If you play any video game, it's the exact same controls. You know, you can go up and down with the WASD controls. Again, there's very minimal, you know, tools here. It's pretty much a full screen, so you do have that game mode experience, and very simple icons at the bottom, you know, that are very easy to work with. So last class, you know, we covered about, you know, the weather here, you know, how to modify, you know, the sky here, right? We can sun brightness, we can move with the sun setting from night to evening to sunrise. You know, we can play with the sun angle, right? Which way it's north. We can do the cloud coverage. All these things are done pretty easily, right? So you have plenty of control here. Or you can do the click real skies, right? And you can select a real sky photograph that in a way I think is more realistic. You're not able to do a cloud like this coverage because it's not a 3D element, it's an actual photograph, but it still gives you much more of a better light. So if I do here real skies and I click in here, I can select any type of sky, right? From clear skies to cloudy. So I can do clear with a few clouds. And that's my sky, look like. And we can always do other skies very easily. So this is much better because the light from this sky is more realistic. So I feel like it gives the whole model a much more natural ambient light. And then we discuss a bit some of this terrain here, how we can build different elements here, right? So we'll do more detail of that later today. But the main thing is, how do we bring that file from Rhino to here, right? How do we start to work with that file here? So if we go to and we only have 4 tabs. We have weather, landscape, materials, and objects. So under objects is where we have all our assets. That means trees, cars, people, lights, effects, right? And we have here our modified toolbar. So we have place, select, rotate, scale, delete, move free, up and down, left and right, and you can type in, and we can do undo. So this is controls. This is our modifier panel, our assets, and this big green button. That's how we import new items into our scene, right? So if I do import, right, I'm gonna find that file in my class folder. And it's here, it's called test Rhino file. So this is and it's gonna show us a DAE file. And it should, once you type that in, it will give you this window here where if you want, you can rename the file, but don't, just keep the same name, right? So I wouldn't really change anything here. Just do the check mark. And then, right, you see how I'm gonna place this and try to put this. You see this over here where I have my mouse? This is my X and Y, Z, right? You see a red line and a green line. Try to place it right on the X, Y, and Z. There. And then do escape. All right, so I'm gonna step back now. So why does this already have water?
Because Lumion has a name water.
Yes, because in Rhino, right, I named this layer water, right? So Lumion assumed that I'm gonna make it water, right? So some names, like water, and sometimes grass will automatically add a certain layer. In this case, I did add grass to this, but it didn't work here. So, but water, it will be recognized. So if I call it water, then in a way it saves you a bit of time because it will already assign water automatically when it comes into to here, right? All right, so the main thing is we have to compare this file that we named all the, we've called this water, grass in the correct location. And this one here, where we didn't, right? In this file, we just, oops, 1 second. In this file, all we did was call it layer 0, layer 9, 8, and 7, I think. And we can see that these all look, white, right? Well, these have the color, right? So the next thing is, how do we verify that our model is working correctly? Because before you start applying any material or do anything, make sure the model is working, properly. And that means that I can select all these individual elements and apply material, separate. So first of all, we have again the objects tab, material tab. So we're gonna click now material tab. When I click here, right, I can hover over my elements and they'll turn green. So if I go here, you see that it's called material lawn, material water, material path, material wall, material grass, sculpture, right? And we see that they all have their own independent name, right? And I can select each one by themselves, right? If I go here and I look at this one, let's go here on this side. And I click here, it says material 0000, I don't know how many times, and everything is one element, right? So even though this is called layer 7, layer 8, and layer 9, to Lumion, it's seen as one element, and it has no idea how to give it a name. So make sure the name is always given in the material column of the layers. So if you get to your model here and you start to click here and everything turns green, simply go back and correct that, right? And the good thing is you don't have to delete this, right? You can leave it here. All you have to do is just update the model to, to make a correction. So for example, if this is, is wrong, right? We need to fix this. How do I fix it, for example? What do I need to do to make the correction?
Go back to Rhino.
Yeah, so let me stop sharing here. Let's go back to Rhino. Yes. Okay, so here's Rhino. So we have, again, these are layer 7, 8, 9, right? So the way to fix this is simply under layer 7, just go under the material tab and call this, I don't know, we'll call it box, give it a name, right? Next one, we'll call it, let's call it cube. And this lilac one, we'll call it, oops, platform, right? So now they have all their own name, right? So box, cube, and platform, right? And we have to do it again, right? So I select everything, right? Again, we do file, export selected, and don't change the name, right? Give it the same name as the previous one. So just overwrite the other file. So again, it's called test Rhino. So just use that file. It'll say, do you want to overwrite? Yes. All right, so that's done. Let's go back now to Lumion. All right. And this file is still being shown as being all white. So we have to go to import, right? But we're not gonna go here. We're gonna go to, let's see here. So I need to select this element, right, first. So if I click the select tab here, right? Let's see here. Let me step back here. So you guys can see everything, okay. You see, so right now I'm in imported models, right? So this tab allows me to select any imported model in my scene, right? If I was in this tab, I can select only nature elements or only indoor element, only cars. So make sure you're in the correct tab here. So the little house means things that I imported to this scene, right? So I'm gonna click here, right? Then I click the select tool. I'm gonna click, and it's gonna click on everything in the scene, right? In this case, these two elements. So click once, right? And then you're gonna see this tab opening on top here, right? And it says, you know, this file is called test Rhino file, and I can either here. So this is to re-import the file. So if you hit this, it will re-import the same file, right? As long as you didn't change the name, right? If you happen to change the name for some reason, right, then it'll say hold down the Alt key to select a new location for the file. So in this case, if you give it a new name, hold down the Alt key, it'll open a folder and you can select the correct folder. But if you didn't make any name change, simply hit re-import. And we can see now, when I go back to material tab over here, we have one box, cube, and platform. So we can easily make that correction and not have to go and redo everything again. So it means that you can always add stuff to your model, right? You can add things, you can take away things. As long as you don't change the name, once it re-imports, it will assign the same material to that layer. So it'll save a lot of time if you're adding things to the file, you're making corrections as you work in Lumion and those things. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
So question, even though the second model was on different layers because the name wasn't given, it just put it all as one big material.
Exactly. So Lumion only cares about the layer that says materials. That's all
Okay,
they
so the
care.
name, yeah, okay.
So make sure that all your naming goes in that layer. That's really all that matters to Lumion, right?
Professor,
Yes.
when I try to export, it says it failed.
You
And-
did a file import, export selected.
Yes.
Can you share your process? You want to share your screen? So
Okay.
I can see. Let me stop sharing and you go ahead and share. Okay.
Okay, so I highlight it. Let me turn this off. And I would go to File, Export Selected.
Okay.
Let's just name it A.
1 second, failed to save to the file writing plugin failed. I haven't seen that message before. Is this like a very large file?
Yeah, it is.
Maybe can you try with a smaller file, see if that works?
Okay, I'll try
Because
that.
if it's something, maybe try to just do a few boxes, you know, if that works correctly, that means that it could be the file is too big.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't trust something that large. It looks like it's a whole water scene, right? With part of the, what are you trying to export? Sorry.
This is my design for.
Okay. So design 4 was a museum,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll try something smaller.
Try something smaller. Yes. I mean, I haven't seen that error before.
Okay.
And then we'll go from there. Yes. It could be that the size is too big.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. So up to now, you know, we can see that we can export very easily from Rhino, right? Just simply save as collada file, right? And then if we go to export now from 3D Max, right, which is the other software that we have, right? Let's try that next, so we can see all the different, you know, platforms. So let me just open my 3D Max. Give me a second. Let's see here. Well, actually, no, we don't have to, because I can use a file I can use an older file. So let's try to, so these two came from Rhino. So let me try and do something from 3D Max, right? So let's go back here to objects, right? I go to import. I'm gonna import a new model. So let's say where I have that one saved. So let me just share my screen again. And I'm gonna share my Rhino screen. Sorry, my Lumion screen. Okay, so I'm checking here in my Dropbox. Let's see. Actually, I'm gonna try and save, you know, one of my complete files from last semester. So that means that my file that already had all the materials already applied to it. So I'm gonna go back to, so you guys can see, if you finish your whole file, let's say in 3D Max and everything's already mapped correctly, what happens once you go over to Lumion? So I'm gonna go to actually my summer class, summer 2020.
Wait, Professor, are you gonna show us how to export from 3ds Max to Lumion?
Yes, so right now, so Lumion will recognize 3D Max files. So all you do is open the 3D Max file from Lumion. So
Okay.
this is gonna be so I'm gonna go here to import again, right? And I'm gonna find here just my 3D Max file. So I'm going to go to, again, my class folder. And let's say that I go to fall, what's the, let's do spring 2020, right? I go to, you know, let's say my Monday class, professor model. So here I have my all right, so I have, this is my files. And let's say this one here, Barcelona professor. This was my, you know, my final file. It's 132 megabytes. And this included, you know, materials and my whole scene. So let's see what happens when you export this scene to Lumion. I'm gonna open this here. Again, don't change the name, just do check mark. It might take a little longer to export because it's taking the actual file. In case of Rhino, we compress the file to a collada file. So it's much quicker, but in Lumion, I mean, in 3D Max, it might take longer, but it's easier because we don't have to do any file export. We just do select the actual 3D Max file. And let's see how long it takes. I mean, typically I would probably clean up the file before I go here, but let's see what it looks like, you know, because things like trees, right? Those we don't need, you know, from 3D Max. Those can be, you know, there because Lumion has its own library of trees. Things like the sun, we don't need. Let's see.
So Professor, basically, you just drag the 3ds Max file into Lumion and just open it.
No, you can't drag it. You have to go to import.
Okay.
There's a green button on the left side, bottom left. So you click on import and you select the file from there.
Okay.
Do okay, yes. So it's still going here. So let's see how long it takes to finish that. When I can show kind of all the options of how, you know, things, what could happen or what could go wrong in case. So let's go here. I'm not then. Okay, so there we go. So I did import the file, right? And now again, like before, I need to just place the file in my scene. So I'm gonna place it somewhere here, outside there, right? And then do escape, right? So first of all, it brought the entire file, right? That means it even brought the sky dome, right? So here, things like the sky dome, I would have to, well, that'll be the problem, right? So if I go to, let's say, materials, right? And see, we can select everything, right? The sky dome independently. So so let's go here. I'm gonna go to imports. I'll go to select. And when I select, the only problem is that I have to select the entire model, right? I cannot delete the sky dome, right? I cannot delete the trees because the trees are part of the entire export, right? But the good thing is if I go to materials, I can select every item, by itself because everything has its own name. So again, this file really wouldn't work, So what I would have to do here is, first of all, I would just, go to imported models, right? Select, and I will pick this one and delete it, right? By clicking here, delete, right? And then double click twice. Because, it's gonna bring in too many things, right? So the next thing that I must do here is open up that file, right? So let me stop sharing for a second and let's switch again to a different, software. Yeah, sorry if it gets a little confusing here. It's a lot of back and forth between different, softwares. So let me open 3D Max and see if we can look at the next part here. Just to make it a little bit easier. Okay, let me open everything first and then we'll move on. Okay, I'm just loading my 3D Max. Right, let me share my screen again. And I open my 3D Max file. So I'm going to open that same file that I had before. I think it was, what was it? Did I do spring 2020? Yes. Monday, professor. And I think this one here. Okay. All right, this is my file, right? That I just opened in Lumion. And you said Lumion brought everything, including the sky dome. That for us, it's not useful, right? So I'm gonna take this file, for example, if I'm ready to go to Lumion, right? And this is my final 3D Max file, I'm not going to use this file. I'm gonna go to File, Save As, right? And give it a name, something, Lumion, right? So I know that this file, file, Save As. I'm gonna call it, so I know that this file is meant to be only for Lumion, right? And do save. At this point, I'm gonna clean up the file. So things like the sky dome, we don't need because there's already sky there. I'm gonna select only lights and delete all the lights in the scene, right? I'll select only cameras, delete all the cameras, right? This, things like the trees, right? Where's the model? Did I delete the model? Oh, the model's there. It just looks strange. Okay. Things like it looks invisible for some reason. Okay, might be something display problem, but it's fine. All right, so things like the landscape, that I'm not gonna bring because that I can do easily in Lumion. So I'm gonna delete the landscape. Trees, we don't need trees. So delete all the trees. V-Ray fur, of course, we don't need that. Things like here, delete trees. And this V-Ray fur, which is 3D Max, is how 3D Max makes real grass. I'm going to delete. So I'm leaving again just the data. In this case, the object data. So in this case, this is our final model. It has materials and everything, right? But the good thing is each material is applied to a certain element. That means that Lumion will recognize that this element is different than this element down here because it has its own material. Once I have this already done like this, then I'm good to go for Lumion. Let's quickly do Do unhide all, make sure nothing's hidden in the scene. And the last thing, make sure that this file, and this is very important in Rhino, Lumion, and any software, make sure the file is saved on the X, Y, and C coordinates, right? Because if it's far away from the X, Y, and C, then it's gonna have problems when you select and try to move something in Lumion. So in 3D Max, the best way to find your X, Y, and Z is simply make a simple shape. I'm gonna make a box right here. And then this box, go to the select tool, right click it, and I'm gonna make it 0, 0, and 0, right? So that box just moved to here. That means that my model is pretty much centered on the X, Y, and Z, and that's close enough. So I can delete the box now. At this point, I will do File and Save, right? So the file is now being updated. So now I can switch over to Lumion, right? So here's the Lumion file, right? That's here. And let's try again. Let's do import, right? Here's the green button. And here's my file, right? Same name with the last part called Lumion. And let's open this file, right? Don't change the name and do a check mark. It should import much quicker because you know, those trees were really hard to export. And we are going to have to reapply again all the materials, right? That's part of the software, right? But at least everything is recognized as being independent, right? Okay, it's almost done. And also later, I'll give you guys a 3D Max file of a house, you know, that we can use to work in the class also. All right, so here's my file, right? So again, I want to place this house near to the X, Y, and Z. I'm going to put it over here for now. Click once, and then do escape. Otherwise, you're going to keep adding multiple copies of the file, right? So I'm going to zoom into this space now, right? And first of all, the main problem here is the house, this space is too low, right? So it's going to be below the grass, right? So our first thing we can do here is try to modify this place by, let me go to the other side here. Turn back. And we see here that, there's a bunch of stairs that's meant to be here, right? So I want to select the entire space and just move it up a little bit, right? So go back to here to the imported models, right? Click and select, right? And you just see, so each file has a little dot, you know, circle that selects. So in this case, this is for this place. That's for the other place, right? So click on this area, right? And then we can select here that when I move freely. In this case, I want to move up and down, right? And then we can go up and down and just, and now so that the stairs are now above the ground, right? So, and if I look closely here, some items did work correctly, like the glass is glass, right? But that's about it, you know. We lost the materials that were there. The water did come out correctly because it was called water, right? So the water looks fine, right? And it looks much better because it's actually animated. And we can check also the materials, right? So if I go to materials, right, we can see that that's called, you know, travertine there, ceiling. Everything has its own name, and we can select each item, you know, independent from the other, which is good because now we can assign our own materials and create it, you know, something more dramatic. All right, so that's pretty much fine. You know, in this case, we know that I imported correctly. So I'm trying to cover a bunch of things in this model, right? So we can talk about different parts in class, right? Again, the landscape, you know, it's right now it's all flat, you know, but the good thing about this landscape, we can sculpt it, right? We can raise it, lower it, we can change the material quality, we can create paths, you know, to make it more dramatic, right? So it's such a nice thing to do, right? And we'll try and do that today in class, right? All right, so at least now we have this model in the scene, which is good. Everything looks correct. We can start to apply materials, and we'll do that, in a little bit. Let me look at something else here. So let me go back, stop sharing. And I want to give you guys also another file, which is a good file to practice using sculpting tools. Let me find my file, sorry. Is it? Okay, here we go. So if you guys see my screen here, this is, I have a library of houses that, that I use for, for CG, for computer graphics. And this house, again, it's not done by it's just a house that was done by a company, and I bought their library of different, houses to quickly practice. So this house, the good thing about this house is set on a hillside, right? So that means we will have to make a lot of sculpting to make this house fit properly on the side, right? And I don't like how this looks, it's very, very rough, I want to look more natural, this looks like a very fake, landscape. And the house, it has enough detail, it has some furniture inside, some stairs, some glass. So I want you guys also to try to use this house as a way to take this house and make it as real as possible, right? And we can practice, sculpting the landscape, materials. The only thing here is this model has to be organized, right? Because I didn't make this file, I purchased the library of houses, and this came with the library. So we can see on the left side here that at least everything is named correctly, right? We have layers according to ceiling, details, equipment, glass, right? So what I want to do here is, how do we organize this file to get it ready for Lumion, right? I'm trying to go over every single option. So let's start here. So this landscape, actually, I don't care about this landscape because I'm going to make my own landscape in Lumion, right? Completely new. I'm going to take this and just delete it, right? You guys can try to do the same thing afterwards. So what I have behind here is a house, and the landscape is going to come in through here. We can work on that sculpting afterwards. Some bridge that comes across. The next thing here is now we have to divide this house into groups, right? So we can assign layers, a lot easier. First of all, even though we don't need V-Ray, I'm going to set up V-Ray just so we can apply basic materials. So I'm going to load my render setup. And I already have it set as V-Ray here, right? So again, we're not gonna make any change here because we're not gonna render anything here, right? Just make sure that it says rendered V-Ray, nothing more. Next, I'm gonna hit materials, right? And I'm gonna get this window here, 1 second. Come on. All right, so this is my window, right? It's pretty blank, right? So I'm gonna just create basic materials, right? So I'm gonna go here, and this one I'm gonna call glass, right? Give it a name and give it a color. Don't give it any texture. We're gonna go only by colors because we're gonna apply all the textures directly in Lumion, right? So all I want is colors to signify different elements, right? So I'm gonna make this blue, right? And it's called glass, nothing more, right? Simple. So the good thing about this area here is that if we see our layers here, everything is named according to the actual, so glass, right? I'm gonna click on glass 1, hold down the shift key, and go up to the end of glass, right? That's gonna select everything called glass, right? Next, I'm gonna hit group, right? And I'm gonna group this into a glass group, right? So that means that this, if I click here and I do right click and isolate, I'm seeing only the glass in this model, right? Nothing more. Next, I'm gonna select the glass and apply this very basic material. Replace it, yes. That is simply a color, nothing more, right? Because again, that material will assign in more detail in Lumion. So I'm gonna call this glass. Once I assign it, to make it easier, I'm gonna hide it, right? And move on to the next one. This way I know that everything's done. So I'm gonna click hide, right? Next, I'm gonna select on walls, right? Let me click on wall here and go down to every single wall. And let's do isolate those items. So walls gives me this, right? So it looks like everything's the same. So in this case, I might be, you guys can take probably more time to separate the walls into other, materials. Otherwise, it's all gonna be the same thing, right? And I'm thinking maybe this area, this brown here, will make that, I'm gonna select this. And I'm gonna call this group 1. I'm gonna call this wood, let's say for that. Make a new layer here, right? Called wood. Or any name, doesn't really matter, and give it a, any color you want. Again, colors mean nothing, right? All they means is that I can tell that it's something else, right? And then I'm gonna hide it. Then other parts here, maybe we'll apply the same material. Looks like this brown, this, same material. I'm gonna hide it. And for now, just to make it very simple, I'm gonna give everything else here the same material, right? Although maybe I shouldn't, yes. Actually, let's take our time, let's do it properly. I'm gonna call this here exterior walls, right? Oops. And we'll call it a name. Again, this is a good way to be precise here. Again, see, I'm only going by color, and I'm gonna call, let's say, this. I'm doing control to select multiple items, right? That's gonna be an exterior wall. This is gonna be exterior wall, right? That maybe also. Whoever made this model, did it in a lot of parts. So again, one thing to think about here is that when I apply something to here, it will apply the same thing also on the inside, right? So if you want to apply a different material on the inside, what do you have to do? Remember that this whole wall, let's say I'll make it concrete, right? But when I apply concrete here, what's going to happen also on the inside?
It's going to be concrete.
Yeah, so let's say that you want to have something on the interior and something on the exterior, right? What could you do?
In Rhino terms, you would explode it. I can't remember what it.
Yeah, so let's do that, just as an example, right? So I'm going to take this here, right? This appears to be, okay, this, is it that one? Yes. Okay, I'm going to take this, control that. And again, this has multiple pieces, which is, I don't know why they made it in so many different little pieces here. And we'll do, again, I'm going to control here. And I'm selecting all these exterior walls here. Make sure that I pick everything. And I think also this one here. All right. Then right click and isolate. So these are my exterior walls of this house, right? All right, so pretty much everything right now is red. So let's say that I wanted to make the ones on the interior be a different material, right? Let's say I can make it white and the exterior be something like, concrete. The first thing here is, again, I didn't model this building, right? I would have modeled this whole wall as one object, not, 4 or 5 different little things, right? So I'm not sure why it was modeled like that, but we could try, first of all, to combine these elements together, right? So in Rhino, what would you typically do for that?
Boolean union.
Yes. So we'll do the same thing here, right? So if we go here to this plus sign here, and we go underneath the standard primitives, there's one tab here, compound objects, right? If I click here, we have here pro Boolean and we have Boolean, right? Those are the 2 elements to try to combine things. So we're gonna use the one called pro Boolean that allows me to combine different things at the same time. So if I select this one here, right? The first one, right? It could be any of them. And I go to pro Boolean, right? Then here I have to select, first of all, down here, my parameters. Do I want to union, subtract, merge, right? So, and I want to union things together, right? Next, start picking, right? I'm gonna start picking all my items that I want to start linking. So I'll do start picking, and I'm gonna start selecting 1, 2, 3, and this little piece over here, 4. So now what happens now is now that whole piece now is one piece, right? Which I like it better, right? Let's go to the other side, right? Again, pick any part of this. I'm gonna pick that part, go back to the plus sign, compound objects, pro Boolean, right? Make sure it says union and then start picking, which means start adding things to your option. So start picking, and I'm gonna pick every other component in my scene here. This part, this, and this, right? I can do escape now. And we see now that this item became one piece, right? Which is much nicer to work than having 5 independent little items, right? once this has been done and they have been combined, like you said, Jama, we have to now explode it, right? Right. So I'm gonna click on this one, right? And I'll do right click it. And you have to go to object properties. That's the one thing that's different here. Click in object properties, right? I'm sorry, that's another thing. Go down, go down to convert to, right? So first of all, select the item, right click it, convert to editable mesh, right? This tab over here, right? So convert to editable mesh is almost like explode, right? And now we go to the modify panel, right? And we see that this item, now we can select the properties. We can select the vertex, the edge, the face. I'm gonna click on polygon, right? And I can select, see, I can select with this different polygons, the front, right? Different side. I'm gonna pick only the back polygon, control, and that one, right? The two back ones, right? And now I'm going to do detach, right? Which is right below the other settings, right? Detach will explode it and make it independent. So I'm gonna call it detach and give it a name. So I'm gonna call it interior wall 1, right? Give it a unique name. Okay. And let's make a new layer here, right? I'm gonna call this layer interior wall 1, right? Let's give it a color. Something that stands out. I can now select this layer, apply the color. And now we have, the backside a different color right here. Same thing with this one here. I'm gonna select it, right? Pick it once, go to the properties tab, this gets called modify. Right click it, convert to editable mesh. Then we go to the editable mesh settings. I'll do polygon, which is to select the entire face. I'm gonna pick, this case is picking the entire face, right? Do detach. I call it interior wall 2. Now here, I'm gonna give it a new name, this one here. Interior wall 2, right? Give it a new color so that you know that it's separate. Oops, wrong one. Okay, let's see. Okay, pick the back side. There we go. So now we have, the back is always red, and oops, wrong one. What did I do here? Okay, this one appears to be, make a correction, that should be exterior walls. So only the interior is a different color, right? Again, it took a little more time, but at least you can be more precise once you go, to Lumion, right? So in this case, I can do an isolate, right? And let's do again. Let me select. So I did change some names here already, which is fine. I'm gonna select all the ones that are walls. Here, right? Oops. Let me go from here. So I did change it from here, interior wall 1, all the way to wall 55, and isolate. All right, so these two are pretty much ready. So this, I'm gonna select it and do hide it. This, I'll select and do hide, select it. And I'm left behind with these elements here. So these are the other interior walls, So again, I could take more time with this. I could apply different materials, right? These two, I think, are little bridges, right? So I'm gonna make a new material. I'm gonna call this one just, I don't know. We'll just call it material 1, right? Because at this point, I'm not sure if it's gonna be wood, concrete, I'm just guessing. So give it a unique name, and I'm gonna put these 2 items in this layer, right? And then I'm gonna hide them. Everything here, just to make it simple, I'm gonna make it into 1 layer. So at this point, I'm out of space, so I'm just gonna move over to the right. And now we have 6 more. I'm gonna call this, let's see, walls, right? Let's make it yellow. And I'm gonna put everything here in this layer, right? And group it also at the same time. And hide select. So and isolate. Select the walls and hide them. So, you know, little by little, I have left things, less things, you know, in my model. So it becomes a lot easier to work, right? So we have the next thing, which is called woodwork over here, right? So I'm going to select everything called woodwork, which I believe means the window frames. And again, isolate those items. And it's all this kind of window frames in the scene. Some could be metal, some could be, you know, wood. Again, for the class for now, I'm going to make it simple. And again, you guys can take more time and try to, you know, apply it in different layers, right? For now, I'm going to call everything woodwork. I'm going to make it, you know, metal. So I'm going to group this into, I'm going to call it frames. And again, I'm cutting a lot of corners here just to save time with this, right? And then material, right? Give it a new material. I'm going to call this frames, right? Let's give it a color. Oops, select it and apply, right? So that all became, you know, this material. I can now select this and hide it. And we can do and isolate and move to the next piece, right? Things like, let's see what we have here. So we have then floor slabs, right? Let's see. You see here that whatever is already hidden shows as you don't have the eye, right? Because it's hidden, right? Everything that you can see the eye is means still showing in the scene. So things like equipment, right? I'm going to select all the equipment that's here and isolate. That's, you know, things like this, you know, so this I might delete, right? Because Lumion has a very nice library for this. So in this case, I'm not going to use anything here. So to make it simple, just delete all these things here. We don't need that. So now we're left behind with details, right? We have ceiling. Okay, let's click on ceiling, isolate it. And the ceiling pretty much is the floor slabs. So I'm going to call this. But again, you know, if you want to make the top of the floor wood, is going to also make the bottom of the floor wood, right? So if you want to make it more detailed, you're going to have to explode some of those things, right? For now, I'm going to put everything as being, you know, I'm going to call it ceiling. I'll give it a name. I mean, how hard can it be to make it? Okay, let's do it properly. You know, I'm very picky with these things, but I'm going to select everything, right? Let's see. So I'm going to imagine that I'm going to give everything the same floor, right? So let's do this. You know, I'm going to take this piece, right? I'm going to Pro Boolean, make sure that I have it as union, start picking, and I'm going to combine all these things together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. So right now, all these things became one mass, right? So when I go to move this, right, everything's together, right? Now that it's combined together or unioned, I'm gonna select it, right click it, and do convert to editable mesh, right? Go to the editable mesh selector and select just polygon. I'm gonna pick the top one, control, second one, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. And I'm picking just the top of all the floors. Something happened there. Okay, something happened there with the geometry, so I'm not sure what happened. All right, for now, let's ignore that piece, whatever. Okay, and there. It could be just a visual thing in the computer. Or we did lose some geometry there. In worst case, we can ignore this floor, right? It already has too many floors. All right, so in this case, you know, I'm gonna now detach those parts, right? And gonna call it top floor. All right, perfect. So let's call it here, ceiling frames. The ceiling, we're gonna call it, give it a new color. I'll call the bottom one, so first escape, exit out. These, the bottom one, I'm gonna call ceiling. That's everything white, right? You can see everything there is green. And now we can hide that, right? What's left behind is the top of the floor, right? And this one, Not sure what happened there, but again, if you guys, you can just ignore that. I know you guys modeled this in Rhino, it'll be very easy to modify. So for this, pretty much, I would just select it, right? Let's make a new one. We'll call this floor. Give it a color. And apply, right? So now the top of the floor is a different material. And we can do again, select it and go to hide selected. Then we can go to end isolate. And now we have less things here behind it. We now have details, and details includes pretty much everything here. So we have things that look like, I'm gonna put this, control. These look like louvers, right? And a bunch of other louvers here. Okay, we're gonna call this louvers. Select, apply it, group it as louvers. And typically I do this, with every model that I work, I'm, especially if it's not my model, but it's a good way to organize layers, and to understand how we can get things to work properly and have more control in Lumion, right? Next one here, these are just very simple cabinets that are in the model. So, so for now, let's put them by themselves in case. I'm gonna call this cabinet. And let's make him stand out. I'm gonna select all these things here. I'm just checking. Okay, a few more missing there. Some of them are hitting. This one's through here. So many. Unfortunately, the names are all the same, so it's hard to tell which ones are which. There's one right there. There we go. I think I got every single one. Not there. Okay. Now I'm gonna group it. I can call it cabinets and apply that layer for cabinets. This I can now hide it. And we have left behind pretty much the stairs, some structural parts, and some railings. So I'm gonna make this all just simple, the same material. I'm gonna group that and call it metal. I'm gonna make it a metal material and apply one more layer here. We call this metal. And we'll give it a name, color. Yes. Okay, so at this point, I'll do unhide all, right? We see the house, it became pretty much just colors, right? So I know that each color means a different material, right? And I can do a quick check here that everything has its own color, right? And I can decide to change or modify other things there. So in this case, we haven't done any mapping work in 3D Max here. We're gonna do everything in Lumion, right? But at least from here, I wanna make sure that this house is done properly, because in this case, from 3D Max, Lumion will recognize each of these as being, so for example, if I take a box here, right? And I make a box here, right? I'll have here these boxes, right? If I import this to Lumion, right? It will look as one chunk, right? They will all be separate things, right? Sorry, they will all be one massing, right? As you apply each material to this element, so if I pick this and apply this material, then it will see this being one independent object, right? So each material is considered a layer Lumion, right? So depending what you apply the material to, all those things applied with the same material will be considered one element, right? So it'll be easier to apply. If you don't apply any materials and just export like this, then it'll be like Rhino. It'll be just one big, selection. So again, you don't even have to apply materials here, right? Just a color and a name, right? And Lumion will recognize as being, separate items. So once here, I think this is pretty good now. I'm going to just do File, Save As, and I'm gonna call this Lumion. There we go. So I saved it as a new file, right? Let me stop sharing and let's go now to Lumion, right? And for now, I'm gonna keep those models there, we can delete them afterwards. So we can see, I'm gonna step back so I can see more in my scene here. All right, so let's bring that house into here now. So again, we go to Objects, to Import, right? And let's go to Dropbox. Where did I save that? Sorry, I forgot already. Okay. I went to fall 2020. All right, so here we go. So I save it under here. House, V-Ray, Lumion, right? Okay, so select that. Again, don't change the name to check mark.
Professor, how do you save a Lumion file?
What do you mean, from Lumion? Okay, let's go with that next step. Once I get it here, we'll save the file in case.
Okay.
No problem. Lumion, just be careful that Lumion cannot open. Lumion can open older files, but if you're working on Lumion, a file save on Lumion 9 would not open. What's the other way? So Lumion 10 will open anything below it, right? And the problem is they keep releasing new updates. That they release now Lumion 10.5, and I got an email that they're releasing Lumion 11 in the next few months. So they're making a lot of changes. All right, so first of all, here's the first problem we have here, right? When I put this house here, what's the scale? Yeah, so the scale should come in automatically. So what I can do here is either something is wrong with the scale, and again, because I didn't make that model, I didn't check the scale. So let's just check the scale, stops here. Let's go back to the other software. And again, let me go to Customize, Unit Setup, and our unit is set to, yes, centimeters. That was a mistake. All right, so this should be US, right? US, feet, inches, do okay. So right now, again, I didn't make this house, so I have to figure out a scale for this house, right?
Professor, what setting opens up the scale configuration?
You go to Customize.
Customize.
And then Unit Setup.
Okay.
And that will go to, before it was in metrics. So I did buy this software from a European company, so it's in metrics. So okay, so right now we just gotta get to the scale, and I'm gonna guess at a scale, right? I'm gonna assume that this being, let's say, the entrance, right? How tall do you think this opening is if you're a person?
7 to 8 feet, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so let's give it from here to there, 8 feet, right? Something pretty tall. So I'm gonna take for now a box, any box. Let's go to snaps. I'm gonna snap it to here. I'm just gonna make a simple box, right? And this box, I'm gonna give it a height. So let's go here to the height. I'm gonna give this height to be 8 feet. Let's see. And it's actually not bad. That's pretty good. It is like 8 feet. So it means the box, this is actually to scale, right? Because I made this box be 8 feet tall,
Professor,
right?
that means the Barcelona pavilion is too big.
Yes, and I think last year I told you class that model had a problem. Yes, okay.
I think so, Professor.
You're right. So in that case, we know that this is correct, right? This is to scale. So it doesn't take much. I made a simple box. I put it here, and it's 8 feet tall. So we can confirm this is correct, So that means it's my other model that is actually out of scale. And it is correct because I know that last year when I used that model, there was a mistake and it was completely out of scale. So let's go back to Lumion. So this is correct, right? So let's look here. And so let's just take this one. And obviously it's out of scale. So I'm going to just select it, click it, right? I'm going to click and delete, right? And then you click twice, one there, and then it's gone. Again, this, when I built it, I wasn't thinking of scale, I was just building shapes, right? So let me take those, delete them, right? And now we have this one here, right? So let's look at this more detail, right? Again, I'm in imported models, right? I'm gonna pick select tool. We have the little sphere in the middle, right? We can select it. And we have selected move up or down, right? The first thing is I want to move this thing. Well, I have two options. I can move it up, right? Until it fits something like this, or I can do halfway. I'm gonna do half. Let's see here. Let's do there, right? And of course, right now this thing is the site is not correct, right? It's completely. This is meant to be on a hillside going up here, right, and coming down. So let's look at this model here. Again, the colors are still maintained, right? We can see that all the colors are there. We can even now start to easily explore this house. Staircase, simple things. Which is very good as a game. You can now explore the house, something that you cannot do in 3D Max. We have, looks like a kitchen. That's an odd space. This there is going. Oops. There. So it looks like a roof deck. So it has plenty of detail, right? And later, we can use all the assets to bring out other things like chairs to life there. So let's spend a little bit of time here looking at more sculpting tools, because, that's the one thing that I like about Lumion is that we can really sculpt, the site, really nicely. So first of all, let's go to landscape, right? We're going to be doing the height, right? Here, that's for sculpting. We can select our brush size, right? And we can select a sculpting speed. This is, if it's higher speed, it's gonna build things much quicker, right? So for now, I don't want things to go too fast because I'm just kind of getting hang of this. So I'm gonna increase the brush size here. Let's see, bigger. And I wanna build up this thing higher. So I'm going to go to raise, right? And I'm going to go higher so I can see here. And let's start raising here. You see how it's going slowly, right? Actually, we can go a little bigger. I want to raise all this area here. So making like this house, maybe it's on a mountainside. If I increase the speed here, it's going to build much quicker, right? And again, don't worry if it looks strange. We can always make other corrections afterwards. Right now it's building too fast. And here things where they get a little bit jagged, I can go to the smooth side and it will smooth out all those edges to make it a much more nicer looking landscape. For now, we still have to build a bit more. Let's go back to raise. I would lower the size of the brush. So we have this thing kind of, again, for now I'm doing a very quick sculpting. Later I will modify it more to get it to fit more. Here we were having some of the landscape also go up here, I think. I'm trying to keep within here so it's not going too much inside. And in case we do go inside, we can always modify it afterwards. And And from here, I actually want the landscape to go down, right? So I'm gonna go decrease and start to decrease this part here. So it really looks like a hillside. And obviously we need a place to drive here, all right, to get it. So I do want to keep some areas flat right here. So in case you can go to the flatten top right here, I'll make the smaller brush size, right? And I can start to flatten out those edges here to create, you know, a flat area. Here we still need to, actually, I think this house we approach from the top, right, from here. So it looks like here, so we're gonna make it flatter. We're gonna build up a little bit here more. So this house is being sculpted into the ground. And maybe the house is overlooking a nice water feature, right? So I'm gonna actually carve in almost like a trench here, from here, to make it bigger. So I'm making like a trench here. All right, and now I want to fill in this trench with something, with water, right? So what I can do here is now is, if you go, we have here the ocean, right? The ocean covers, if I click on ocean, right, and I do ocean here, it covers the entire scene, right? So up to the, you know, forever, right? And we can control, you know, the wave speed, the height of the water, but there's not much choice, you know, it's always going to be an ocean. That means the waves are always going to be very strong. So in this case, for me, the ocean is not the best, you know, choice. So I'm going to turn the ocean off and I'm going to use water right here, which means I can just click on water and I can draw the shape, right? And then I can pull out the edges here of the shape, you know, and make it fit enough so it fits that area. Right? Where is it here? Then when it's there, I can just click on the, here in the middle, up and down, right? So there's my water, right? Then I can go back to continue sculpting. So we have go down, we have now, you know, something like this. Some parts here, I want to sculpt a little more. So maybe I need a much smaller brush. Again, doing this all pretty fast, so. Again, it's okay. Some parts here get, you know, some land because it'll be difficult to modify everything. And, you know, once you get all those jagged edges, you know, finalize by going to smooth, right? It will kind of take away all those jagged shapes, make into a nice landscape here. So we hear all those rough angles. And also with painting, we can do also other things, like we can start to create paths, right? So if I go here to the paint tool down here, right, we can collect, you know, here. So if I go to say this one here, and I go to the edit type, we can choose to put it's the, you know, any type of those, you know, paths. In this case, European gravel, right? I'm gonna change my brush size, make it smaller, and we could make a path. So from here. So now I'm painting. I can increase the speed of the paint. And I'm painting a path into my scene, right? So this way, you know, imagine somebody. And you can always change, you know, to other ones, right? Let's say a different type of rocks, and you can, you know, you can paint different layers, right? And also here, you can control the size of the rocks, right? You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller. So I'm painting like a nice area here. again, you can spend, days and days here painting stuff, right? Depending how detailed you want to get. And then last, what I would do here is, right now this grass is fake, so I would go to grass setting here, right? Landscape, and I would turn the grass on. And if we go close here, we can see that we can adjust the grass size, grass height, and such things there. So we get a little bit more precise things. Okay. So it looks like the house is kind of sitting on a nice, hillside. Again, the sculpting, you guys can do whatever you want. You can take more time with this. I just did it fairly fast for the tutorial here. That looks fake, this little sharp edge. So just, I will go back to height, go to smooth, and, smooth out those edges. Okay. Is this part okay with you guys?
Yes.
So again, I want you guys to really make something unique, right? So again, think about what is your setting, right? So you guys can actually, go beyond just making the actual, building, but actually create the whole experience for, in this case, could be for the client or for, where the house could be located, right? All right, so let's look at now. It's 9:52. Are you guys? Should I keep going, or are you guys in a break? No comment. Does that mean should I keep going? Eric, what do you think?
It's nice. I'm just starving. I didn't have dinner or lunch last night.
You didn't? Wow. Okay, that's tough.
Yeah.
So do you guys need a break? No, I'm okay with that. No big.
Yeah, to get myself a PB and peanut butter and jelly.
All right, so let's take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and continue with mapping the house, those things. All
Okay,
right.
Professor.
All right, guys,
Did you
yeah.
did you have me in your in attendance?
I did.
was
Yes. Yes. I'll do it right now. No problem.
Okay, Professor.
All right. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, guys, take a 10-minute break, and I'll keep recording the video in the meantime.
Okay.
All right, guys, are we back yet?
Yes.
Okay, good. Eric, did you get your peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Yeah.
Okay, let's again, it's all been recorded, so I think it's fine. We can do and again, we don't have class next week. I mentioned before in the beginning of class, but next week, next Wednesday follows a Monday schedule. So that means that we're skipping next class. So I'm gonna try to pack more stuff into today's video, right? So we have plenty of things to work on for the next, for the next class. Okay, let me share again my Lumion screen. All right, so as we just, as I discussed, in Lumion, you can spend a whole day or weeks or, working on landscape, right? It just depending how precise you want to create your, your landscape, right? You can paint on different, materials. And again, we still haven't dealt with adding trees and those things, right? And low vegetation. That will do, soon. We already see some type of problem here where, the grass is actually growing on top of this. So, if I go back to grass here, right, and I turn my grass off, so what I can do here is either I can lower the grass height, right? So that is just enough so it doesn't go past, that piece. And of course, if you go inside here, there's still a few problems. But again, you don't have to worry about every single inch of the house because like I mentioned before in every class that I teach, when you do a rendering, right, or animation, and you show this to the client, you're really not showing every single corner of the house, right? You're focusing on the main areas of the house, right? So if I'm gonna focus on a rendering that captures a view, let's say from here, right? Looking out, to the area, of course, I'm gonna check that everything here is done perfectly fine. But if I'm never gonna see a view of, let's see, of this area here, then I could care less if I see that, again, think about your camera angles, right? And again, if you're gonna see this in a view, then you can go back here to the height, decrease, and just there quickly, modify there, right? But if you're never going to see it, then don't worry about the effect, right? It will be, much more difficult to worry about, those things, right? So always very important is the camera angle, your final shots, and don't go crazy detailing everything that you're not going to see, in the final shot. So for now, think my house, I am gonna come back later and work in, landscape, trees, such things. For now, I want to get a general idea of what my house looks like. And right now, we're also looking right now at a huge empty area here, right? So, which looks pretty fake, right? So one thing I can do very quickly here is I'm going to step back as much as possible. And I know that my view is this way, right? So around here, I might just make a very large area. I will go to build, right? Speed. And maybe from here, oh, sorry, I'm gonna erase it. No, yeah, erase here. And I'm gonna go much quicker. I'm gonna imagine we're facing some mountain. Again, we're trying to create an enclosed scene, right? So everything is contained, right? In my scene, right? So, and after that, we don't see the horizon line, right? And we can do also, jitter. That'll make things more rough looking. So we can quickly create, these things right here. Okay, so I'm gonna build in, pretty high because I want this side to be self-contained, right? That means that we cannot see this empty area below our side, right? And then I can quickly just check here. From here, we get a nice view, right? We get some mountains there. I don't no longer see the emptiness behind there. And I can check every view, right? We have nice mountain views. I can go back here. Where's my, oops. Here, and we get a nice, area here. Again, we're not, seeing that much over there. So later, if I see something in my shot, I might come back and, fix it up a bit more. But for now, my view is pretty much contained, right? There. So we can start looking, and we'll come back to this later, right? We have, the sun, so we can, once we have this, we could actually start to explore the the shadows of our building, right? And that's the good thing, that we can see shadows in real time, right? If I go here, I can start to change the sun direction, which way is north, right? And we can see how the light, starts to come into the space and create something more, dramatic, right? And we can start looking also at materials, right? Let me go to here, and let's start with the exterior wall here. And it is pretty, it's pretty easy to apply materials, right? A lot of things you can modify, and we can also do custom things afterwards. So we'll take it, one step at a time. So let's go to material tab over here, right? So when you click here, you won't see anything here until you click on something, right? So I'm gonna start by the red wall. So I'm gonna click on this wall, and we can see it's called exterior wall. Click once. Once you click it, you're gonna get this new tab, right? So everything here is mostly custom stuff, right? We can paint just by color, right? We can do a custom material, and other things for now we're gonna ignore. Then we have, here's where you have your custom materials. So at this point, we have nothing custom, and then we have our, typical materials: outdoor materials, indoor, and various, which typically means that landscape elements. So let's start with an outdoor material, right? And we have, bricks, concrete, glass, metal, plaster, roofing, stone, wood, and asphalt. And within each one, there's other tabs. So in this case, for brick, we have 4 tabs of brick. So there's plenty of choice, right? For concrete, we have, again, 4 tabs. Glass has 3. So depending, they all have different levels, of option, right? So let's start with concrete. So the good thing is, as you pick the material, you can see it in the viewport right away. So I'm gonna I'm gonna pick the first one, right? Second one, third. We can check, each one until we find something that we like. Right? Concrete panels, and I think we can easily, view each one. I'm gonna go a little closer so we can see more detail. This is like a nice precast concrete, a little rougher. This is like a Tadao Ando looking concrete, which is not bad. I like this one. And again, we have other choices here that you guys can try. So let's stick with this one here. So let's look at a bit more detail on this concrete, because this concrete, it looks okay, right? But one thing is, like anything, it looks too what? You guys tell me. What makes a model look realistic?
It looks so clean.
Yes, exactly. It looks too perfect, right? Too clean, right? And it could be, that's your art. But again, something that is, again, in the outdoors, having a little bit of age is always good for the material. So let's go a little closer here. And again, this is the material, right? So if I double click on this material, it will bring up the advanced option. So I'm going to double click in concrete. It's going to give me this here, right? And we can see the color, the gloss, reflective value, relief, which is the bump, and the map scale. So we can modify all those things for this concrete. So we can change the scale to make it bigger. We can make it smaller, right? So we can adjust those scales, We can adjust the glossiness, the color. And then below here are the advanced options, right, that we have. So first of all, we have the first one is position, right? So we can adjust the X doesn't really do much. Y, again, we can move it up and down. If we want to try to align some of these lines, right, we can move it to get it more precise. Left and right, so we can make minor adjustments so things are looking better. The orientation, right, that controls which way it's going. So again, if we want to rotate it, that's where you go. In this case, we're not making any change for that. The transparency, again, this is meant to be solid, so we're not gonna work with any transparency, so we can ignore that. The settings, right? This, okay, so this, you can play with the saturation, the emissive value. What does emissive mean? What is something emissive?
When it gives off light.
Yes. So we can give any material, we can make it glow, right? So if we increase the emissive value, watch what happens, right? It starts to glow, right? And this could be nice for if you want to mimic a light bulb, right? Or something that glows, right? Maybe neon lights. But for this wall, obviously, we're not going to make it glow. So we'll take it down to nothing. Then we have here weathering. That's very important, right? And, in 3D Max, we try to do it by giving a map for, for dirt, right? Here's a lot easier because we just go to weathering and we can choose the weathering type, stone, wood, leather. and there's a bar, you know, we can just adjust. So from right now it has no weathering. Let's go very close here so you guys can see. And watch what happens when I increase the weathering. You just see more dirt being collected along the edges. See, a bit more. And the more I get, the more green, and we have like moss growing. You know, it's somewhat of a random shape. And we can always take it down to, you know, not give it only a little bit. So again, I wouldn't give it too much because these things become too, it has like a, I mean, it's not bad, but I want to see maybe a bit less here. So I will make it a stronger weathering, something like that. And the last one here actually is pretty nice. This last one here, this is foliage, right? That means that on any shape, any object, you can grow something on the exterior, right? Or on the shape, you know. The only problem is going to grow on all faces, right? So this is why it's important that this face is separate than the face on the inside, right? Because you won't have things growing there. So if I go closer here, the foliage, you can first of all control the spread. So I'm gonna, you see how it spreads up through the material, right? Which is nice. I'm gonna go halfway, right? And you see how it's not going on the inside. If this is all one material, it will also be growing on the inside, right? Once it's there, we can also control, a second, let me turn my house phone off. Okay, so once it's there, we can also select the, first of all, the spread, which is how far it grows from the bottom going up, right? We can do the leaf size. So we can go a little closer here and we can change the leaf, make it a little bigger, right? We can change the leaf type, right? So if we go here, it's gonna go to one type of leaf, second type, third type, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So there's 7 different types of leaves, and they're pretty detailed, you know, leaves. We can go to like something like pine, and you can pick one if you want, right? I mean, it does give it a nice feeling of the house being part of the, you know, the landscape, right? And it's done very easily. And then we can do the spread pattern. So we can change how it's, you know, climbing up the wall and the ground level, right? So how far it grows, you know, it could be like that, which is fine. You know, there's plenty of buildings like that. And we can just be a bit more like that. I typically step back, you know, and play with the spread pattern to see which pattern I like most. And we can see that it should be also applied to the other side, because we made it its own material, right? Here, it looks like something with the geometry is making, but again, nothing that's too crazy. On the inside, we're good. We don't see any leaves on the inside. So that's why you want to keep it how it is. Okay. You know, then we have here, I made these all be frame, right? So I'm going to click on frames. I'll go to, let's try outdoor, metal. And we have plenty of choice of metals, right? We have like a, let me get closer here. Metal painted, metal painted red, you know, something that's more like rough, rusted metal. Metal frame, which doesn't look bad, like a black stainless frame. There's other ones there. I'm gonna keep for now this black one. There's a nice contrast. Up here, maybe we'll try a different material, right? That's why I made it a different color. I'm gonna pick the wood one. Also, as you guys go here, you see on the bottom right, this little check mark, right? So right now I'm applying material, right? And if by some chance I hit escape, right, it will undo everything, right? So if I went and applied material for the entire house, you know, and I don't know why, because, you know, I hit escape for a reason, it will undo everything. So as you apply material, hit check mark. That will save the changes to the material, right? Right. Let's say I'm here, okay, I'm applying this, you know, wood, you know, I go here to outdoor. Well, let's say I make it break, right? It's break, right? There it is. I do escape, it's all gone, right? So as you apply the material, check mark. Make sure that it applies, it makes it permanent. Because I've done it before. I applied 20 materials and I use escape a lot for everything, right? I hit escape and I just lost all the work I just did, you know. So Let's try outdoor. Let's try wood, right? Let's see what we have here, right? And we can try different wood patterns. There's plenty of a good choice of library, right? So in this case, if I like this wood material, right, but I don't like that it's facing vertically, just double click it, right? Go down to the position, right? Then go to orientation, right? And that's the heading here, doesn't much, but the pitch controls this, right? So I can just either click here, right? Double click it, right? And here, double click it and type in 90. And now we change the orientation to be facing, the correct. And again, it's going to be applied also to the interior. So again, if you want this to be a different material, then you're going to have to, break it up afterwards.
Professor, does Lumion have a undo and redo button?
Let's see. Let's see. I believe it does. Yeah, here. So it says right now, undo is not available at this moment. So I haven't had good luck with the undo option in Lumion, right? There's one, but it doesn't work as good, I think. So that's why I try to encourage you guys to, hopefully always do check mark. But that's the one place where you can make a mistake easily and you can lose some time because you can apply material and then very quickly you can lose it, right? So let's say this, I'm gonna go back to material, right? I'm gonna click on this, which is the floor. Let's give it a floor. So
Professor, how
yes.
would you add custom seamless materials that you got from Google?
Okay, let's do that next, yes. So let me apply something to here, right? And then we'll do that next. So let me give it let's do indoor. We can try a wood floor. Again, it's going to apply to everything because I did make the top and bottom the same. So if I go inside here, we have the wood material. And we can, again, the good thing is we can just go from each one and keep trying until you find one that you like. Some are more glossy, some are less glossy. You can always modify the glossiness effect. There's plenty of options here, right, for the material choice. So yeah, I mean, right now I'm not really going for, I'm just picking anything here. So let's say you like this one here, or you like this one here, but it's too glossy, right? You can just double click it, right? And then you can reduce here the glossiness to make it more or less glossy, right? You can reduce that reflective value, right? More reflective or less. And you're going to play with the scale to make it bigger or smaller. And everything here should be seamless, right? So it should be fairly quick to use. But let's do that like Eric said, let's do something custom, right? And I'll be using custom a lot because sometimes you don't find the right wood material in the scene, right? So let's say, for example, here, I want to make something custom, right? So let's go to, let's see here. All right, so let's first pick something that we're going to do custom. So let's find something. Let's say, what did I make this yellow thing here? The walls. These are all the, so we're not going to make that. This is all the interior walls. Let's find something. So let's make this inner walls, right? The green ones, right? We'll make those custom, right? So let's find something for that. So I'm going to stop here. Let me share something here. 1 second. Let's go to share my Google. So again, we're making a wall. So what wall do I want? Walls, seamless, texture, right?
You can make it out of marble, Professor.
Marble? Well, it's something unique, because something that we have marble there, but
oh yeah.
Let's make something that is typically not found, let's say pattern. Let's see.
The white triangles looks cool.
That's pretty cool, yeah. Let's see how big it is. Is it seamless? That looks pretty cool, yeah. That looks nice.
It's small though. It's 419 by 419.
But maybe we'll make it, again, we'll make it tiles, right? So let's see. Let's see what it looks like. Right? So let's just. I'm gonna click on this. Okay, actually, let's go back one. Let me see. Just right-click it. I'm gonna save image as, and I'll copy it to our class folder. I'll put it in my folder. Fall 2020 Lumion tutorial, and I drop it here. We're gonna call this tile. Okay, so that's fine. Let me try a seamless pattern. What else can we find? Okay, we have other things. I'm gonna go tools, size, and large. So we can do a lemon pattern.
Professor, that was like a 1940s indoor wallpaper.
Yeah. That looks pretty cool too. Okay. Something dramatic, yes. We'll try that one and we'll try a couple at once so we can see how they look. It just needs to be seamless. That one, this one looks actually nice. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's seamless in the wave pattern vector. Leopard. Well, let's try it, if it doesn't look good, we'll change it. We'll try a couple. Let's try this lemons. Okay, so we got 2 custom materials there. Let's stop. Let's go back to Lumion. All right, and we'll make this wall here. So first of all, we have to pick the wall. So we have to let's do a check mark here to confirm our wood floor, right? So we're material tab. I'm gonna click the green wall. And now we get our, we can choose indoor, outdoor, and then new, we'll do a new material, which is the one here called standard. So I'm gonna click on standard, right? And then we have, we can modify the color, glossiness, all these things, but the first one here is where we add the diffuse map, right? That's the one that is gonna show the image. The one here is where we add the bump. In this case, I don't have a bump, so I'm not going to add anything there. So I'm gonna choose the, the diffuse map. And we're just going to go to, the same folder. And we have here these 2 options that we have, right? We have, so let's try first this tile option, right? Okay, there it is, right? First of all, it looks like it has a bump, which is because we have the relief very high, right? So the relief is a bump. If I take away this, you can see that it does work a little bit, the bumpiness, so we can keep it on. We can make it more glossy or less glossy. We can play with the scale. What's the relief? This map scaler. It's not as precise as I want it to be. Okay, we're here at 0.1 scale. We can see it actually repeats pretty well. What's the only problem right now with the material?
Is not the correct color, Professor?
Yeah, it's green, right? So here, you see the color here, the top one? If you go here, it goes more towards green, but if you go back all the way, it'll show the actual color of the material in this case. And it actually looks pretty good. It is like, it is seamless, right? I don't see any mistakes here. Okay, so what we can do now is once we made this custom material, right? And we adjust the glossiness, the things here, we can do, you see here, we can do save material, right? I'm gonna save this and we'll call this tile pattern. Of course, save it in a folder where you know where it is, right? And save. So now that it's saved, right? We can load material. And then we have this one here. You see, it's save material to custom materials. I'm gonna save the custom materials and we're gonna give it a name. Custom tile, right? Check mark, right? Okay, so now when I'm gonna go back to the main library. When I go here to my custom materials, I have one already made, right? Custom. So let's make one more material, right? That is custom also. So let's go back to new material. Let's go to standard, right? Let's go to choose color map. I'm gonna use the lemon one. Actually, that looks pretty good. Again, we'll make it less glossy. We'll play with the scale of the material. Okay. Again, we can play with the reflective value of those things. I'm gonna save this material to my library. We'll call this lemons. Does that look better?
Professor, how do you save that material to the folders again?
So we have to here, when it's save material, right? This saves to the, like a folder, right? And we can put it in it's a pattern.
And what
right?
happens if he forgets to do that, Professor?
It's fine, yeah, as long as you, what this does, it links the material to the actual material image, right? If not, then you can just save material to custom material, right? That will also do it, But this is there in case you need to take this file, right? And go to a different computer, right? let's say that, because this is only saved on your computer, right? If you go to the school computer, right, you won't be able to access this file, right? So you can take it into a folder and you can go anywhere and bring over all your custom materials, right? Then here, if you do save, it will save it directly into your library, right? And because it's your computer, it knows where everything is located already. So,
Okay, Professor.
yes. So again, you can make as many as you want. At this point, now we have, if you go back here, we have now 2 custom materials in our scene, right? And yeah, it looks like I didn't, so we have that. And that would make it looks like a different material there. So, and we can always select it and apply this one here. So at this point, you can start mapping things, and there's a mistake here. It looks like it does show up here. Oops. This triangle here looks like it is missing, but not a big deal. And there's stuff growing in the bottom here. But again, if we're not going to see it, then for now, I'm not really going to care about it until I decide to take a rendering in that area. At this point, all we have to do is, keep mapping, everything. We are missing, other elements in the scene. So I won't go into every detail about mapping, every single piece here, but, we can click on the next item. We can go to outdoor concrete. I'm going to make it a simple concrete material, right? This, I forgot what it was. Cabinets, you can give it a material. And this was the inner walls. So I'm going to make all the inner walls be, I guess we can do a type of very simple concrete. Again, I'm going to this very fast so you guys can be more careful. This actually has a nice concrete material. Things like this, this is like the louvers, right? We can just select this, go to outdoor, and just apply some wood material. Something that has no pattern. And just find something that you like. So if you like that one, I'm gonna double click it, play with the scale. So that's better scaled correctly there. And our house, starting to, to come to life, it doesn't look as fake as before. Again, materials can take a long time. You just gotta go each one, and modify the glossiness, so right now I'm going through everything fairly fast. So once you apply, all the materials, right, we can do, again, check mark here. And if you go here to objects, right, we have other things that we can do, right? There's, first of all, there's nature, right? There's fine detailed nature, which are trees that have ultra quality, leaves, everything. They do take up more space, and it does slow down the computer a bit because they have really, so you have a tree that is very, very close to the camera, then I might put one of those trees, but I wouldn't put those trees for the entire scene, right? That would just, slow down a lot the computer. But we can do, for example, and this is where it gets, if I go to nature, they have, double click it here. They have about 15 areas, and each one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Imagine that 5 times 7 times 15. It has every type of tree you want, which is leaves, conifers, which are like pine trees, pine trees. Yeah, this is where we have palms, all different type of palm trees, trees with no leaves, grasses, plants, flowers, rocks. So there's tons of stuff you can select, and you can modify each one. So you see also there's a person next to the tree, so you can quickly understand the size of the tree, right? And it's pretty easy to put in. So for example, here, if I pick this tree, right, just drop it, and you can drop it as many times as you want, or you can go to the next one, get a different type of tree, different one here. So you can work different scale trees.
Professor, do you know what's coming in Lumion 11?
They're fixing the, again, it always seems to be the materials, right? Where they're getting more and more realistic, right? I'm still waiting for them to include VR, right? That means that you can hook up to a headset, and they're still not, doing it right. But they are getting to be now very realistic, competing against V-Ray, right?
Yeah, because I see that because they're coming up with updates like every 6 months.
Exactly, yes, even more than that, yes. Yes, I mean, this you can go, pretty fast here, putting trees, right? And if you go close, and these are actually, and this is not even the best quality trees, the leaves are there, it moves with the wind, right? Of course, that tree is too big. So if you make a mistake with the tree, right, and you need to delete it, right, what you can do here is, first of all, make sure that you're selected in the nature, right, because the tree belongs to the nature, tab. Then click and select, and you see a little circle. Each circle means each element. So in this case, we'll pick the tree. We can do move freely. We can do, if you want, scale. And here's a bar. We can lower the scale of the tree. We can rotate the tree in case, right? Fine. So this tree appears to be hitting on all sides. So maybe we just make it a little bit smaller. Okay, so right now it's pretty close. I'm gonna move the tree a bit more here. I go to up and down just to, we can always go also here very close, things like this, these edges where it's not as precise, right? And we can go to like in nature, right? And there's also things like grass, right? We can put all these little grass things here, right? You can just click on different elements and it's done very fast, you can select these things. Again, don't start going, sometimes what I see is students put, every single color possible and it looks like a painting, be very neutral with the landscape, because otherwise if it gets too colorful, then it becomes very distracting to the eye, and it's actually worse for the scene, right? So I typically like to pick things that are very neutral in color, but you can start to fill in all those gaps where you might see, a few mistakes there. And again, that's done very fast. We can even go to plants, you can start to have, potted plants, all those little details. Flowers, again, we can go crazy with flowers here, but we're not doing a flower garden. Cactus, this is good, this is like clusters, right? Because you might not want to spend the whole day planting trees here, right? This whole area is facing our house, right? So if you go, plucking one by one, it would take a long time. So in this case, what I would do is I would do a cluster of trees, right? So we can do a tree cluster here, right? You see how it plugs in all those trees. We can do a smaller cluster here, depending on the size of the tree. Canopy cluster. We can do autumn leaves. Let me find one that's good. All right, so I'm gonna put this one there. Did it install properly? I can't tell if they're floating the trees there, but I'm gonna drop them in through there, put a bunch there. Maybe I'll change to other tree types. Again, I'm filling up all those things with trees so that our scene has more like a forest looking element. So when I go here, I'm seeing this, right? A nice tree, line. Obviously, things that are far away do clusters. Things that are nearby, you can be more selective, and pick, the trees that you like. We have things here like a little deck. So again, everything here is nature, right? Then we have here fine detailed trees. The library is fairly small, only 2 different categories, but these are ultra realistic trees, so they have much more geometry. So, I'll put a few that are next to the camera, but I wouldn't fill up the whole landscape here with those because I tried that once and even my computer went down to a dead stop. It just was too slow. Again, we have people, right? Things like this, and there's tons of people, right? In this case, there's men, there's women, boys, girls, tons of pets, farm animals, silhouettes, and, so you can choose from here. It's not really that diverse. I mean, their names are what we have here: men, African. That's what they call everyone that is black. It's called African. Then we have Arab men. We have Asian men. And Caucasian men. That's it. That's the choice of people, right? And they're sitting, standing, walking. So if I put, let's say, this guy over here and drop him there, he is, I think they all have movement, right? That guy looks like Neil Patrick Harris. So, I mean, they're very fake looking, all of them. So I typically, if I use them, they're very far away in the camera, right? Nothing in my scene, right? Because, somehow the eyes always look fake. But there's plenty of choice, if you want to fill up a scene, right? Oops. It's getting a little better, but yeah, they're getting still a little fake. And again, this for, kids, animals, again, if you have clients that have pets, they'll like having a couple cats there. And if you want to delete it, again, just click delete. Click once, you can delete it very easily. So you can go to the people, right? Again, put them away from the camera, nothing close to the camera. And then we have a huge library of indoor elements, right? That includes chairs, tables, electronics, things to just create, decor, right? So we can, let's say, click that one. We can do a couple of those here. A bunch of tables. And you can very quickly build the scene. These are all pretty realistic. The only limitation here with these elements is that you cannot change the material, right? What you get here is what you get, once we go to 2D motion, the difference is that we can modify all their assets. We can change the material, the color, anything we want. Here, you're limited to whatever choice they have, in this area. So we can, put a bunch of, we can go very quickly here and build the scene. Right? We can go put a piece of bread there, a bunch of, and really quickly build the scene, right? They have tons of desserts.
Perfect house for an alcoholic professor.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's, again, you can go from tropics to whatever. So the storage stuff, it's a bunch of different things you guys can use here. So pretty simple. Then we have outdoor stuff, which covers benches, right? So we could go, let's say here, down here, and start to, put a modern bench over here. So it's something to look at the scene, right? We can put a fire pit. Is that what it is here? Yeah, bench. Maybe yes, I don't know. So they have, this outdoor furniture. You can actually put other buildings if you're doing a very quick scene. You can put they all look like they belong in Europe. So none of them fit the US, but yeah. Assorted elements, lighting fixtures, so we can put lighting outside. Construction elements, signs, road signs for, thing per country, from France to Japan to, looks like only Japan, France, and US. Storage elements, utilities. So we're doing something at, say, urban design. You can quickly drop bus stops, fire hydrants, signs, waste material, industrial elements,
Professor,
fences.
can you change, like, let's say you put like a garbage can. Can you change the color of the garbage
Oh,
can?
that's the thing that is limited here. So if I do like a garbage can here, let's say this one, which looks very small here, right?
Mhm.
You can't, that's the only thing. Whatever you get here in the assets is permanent. You cannot change anything. Once we go to 2D motion, right, the next software eventually, they also have a very nice library, and there you can modify everything, color and such things. So
Yeah.
you can
I mean, if you
choose.
render, you could always go in Photoshop and
Yeah. Or you can bring your own garbage
that's
can.
what I do.
You can also import your own garbage can, right? Make it yourself, and then give it whatever color you want, right?
That's more difficult, Professor, because you have to go with all the edges and the meshes
Yes.
and all that.
I mean, there's not much here for fencing, but you have a couple Japanese style. I mean, this software is very popular in Japan, So that's why a lot of things are made towards them and also Europe. So again, you can spend another 2 days, you know, adding furniture, small plants, right? So time starts to, you know, add up here with these things. And we also have cars, right? So obviously in this scene, we're not really putting a car. We have no place to put a car. So we maybe have a place to put a car up here. So we have cars, sports cars, SUVs. We can put a Hummer. This is how we got to this site. There. This we can actually do something to the car yet. So if I click on this car, right, select it, right? You see up here, we have options for the cars. First of all, we can turn the car's lights on, right? We can say to show the driver inside the car. Is there a driver there? I don't know. Well, right now it's a black Hummer, so we can change the color there to any color we want. We can modify the height, you know, briefly here to make sure it fits properly there. So there's some option there, you know, with the cars. Then obviously we go there into our scene. There's, you know, also, you know, buses.
Hey, Professor, I was gonna ask, how do you make a road with, like, you know, the yellow asphalt?
Yeah, okay, so that's actually, yeah, so let's do that. So we can go back to landscape, right? We go to paint. I'm gonna select from this choices, we have, what do we have? Snow grass, European gravel, cold gravel.
But wouldn't we have to make it completely flat for us to do that?
I mean, depends. If you're making something off-road, then no, but if you're making it flat, then yes. I mean, this is not really for painting precise roads, right? Like you wouldn't have, you know, in that case, you will have a layer that is just for road, right? That shows a very, you know, precise looking road, right? In this case, we can paint on very simple, you know, rough, you know, roads, you know, but we can get straight lines here. For that, you know, I would import a layer that is just the roads, right? A layer for the sidewalks, right? And then we can apply material to those elements. Here, all we can do here is with this, we can get the brush size a little bigger, right? And we can paint on here, let's say, a very rough looking road. Maybe it comes from over there. So maybe it ends here. All this becomes the road material. Next, you know, the material scale is too large, right? So we're just gonna lower the scale of the materials. It looks like gravel. And yeah, pretty much just painting on the road here. So you get like a platform there. I mean, in a way, this is, even my son who's 9, you know, I've been teaching him this, you know, he likes playing computer games, and this is like second nature, you know, it's like playing a game, right? And it's actually, you know, he's learning very fast how to build everything here. We can also change to other gravel types, you know. I don't know, they have like European gravel, Thailand gravel. I don't know what is the difference between Thailand gravel and European gravel. So, you know, we can do that, right? Then afterwards, we can maybe make it look more realistic there. We can go back to objects, nature. You know, I'll plug in some trees there just to make it look like, you know, something's happening there. I'm just picking random trees through here from these things. There. So now we get our landscape there. We approach to our house. And the reason why you might want to put all this detail, because you might want to show the client, you know, what they see as they drive it up to their house, right? And you can later will eventually animate this, you know, and make it very precise. But, you know, we've done all this, you know, in a matter of a few hours, you know, even less than that. You know, in one class, we built our own roads, modified the landscape, played with materials, added vegetation to the material, made mountains, right, in the scene. All very fast, right? Something that, again, here it's not V-Ray, right? So V-Ray means it's exactly like the real world, right? This is it's a real-time rendering engine, right? So, you know, it's making shadows and everything that are very precise. But again, it's mostly just imitating shadows, so it generates what it thinks it will look like, right? But not exactly what will happen in real life, right? But for us, it's more than enough, precision, right? And it looks pretty good. Again, we have, outdoor cars. There's also, if you go down here to here, we have our little lake, right? We can also drop boats, right? So there's not much choice for boats, right? Put some guy there fishing. That's it. And we have also airplanes, trains, and assorted bicycles and such things. So let's say down here, put my bike there. So again, it will come to life, fairly fast. And many times this is where students just finish, right? And they just render, right? So rendering, we'll cover it, eventually, not this class because it's too much stuff already. But rendering, again, there's a lot of settings you can select to make it look real, right? If you just take this right now and render it, it will look okay, right? But it won't look realistic, right? So what I see is many times, at this point, everyone stops and then render the images. And, the colors look off, they don't have the right filters because everything here is like Photoshop. We can add filters to this, that make it look more realistic, that controls lights, that improves shadows, right? So all this can be done, we still haven't covered, lights, right? Those things. At this point, we've only covered importing from Rhino, from 3D Max, materials, basic landscapes. So I would say, if you're gonna, you guys, if you want, can use this file, if you want, also you can use your own file, right? But don't bring in like a project from urban design where you bring in half the city, in a skyscraper. You can do that, but it just will take too much time, right? Focus on something that is about this size, right? And make sure that, again, if your project has very little detail, right, then, use this house, right, if you want, right? I'm sure that you guys can all make it look different, because you can pick the material, you can make your own landscape to this house, and you can do a lot of things to, to make it your own. Don't forget to save the file. So if we see down here, this is our tab for, first of all, we're in the build mode. We have the photo mode, which is to capture renderings, movie modes, and 360 panoramic view. Those we'll cover later. Make sure you save here the files. If I click save here, just do, so right now we need to, let's see, save the project, right? So in this case, we typically do save as. I do save as. I'll put it in my Lumion tutorial. So we call this, I'll call it 4709 tutorial. And it's saving as a Lumion 10, right, file. And save it, right? So at this point, the file is saved, right? Also, let's look at one thing before I finish class today is, depending on your computer speed, right? As you're adding all these things right here, more trees, right? Things might start to slow down, right? A lot, right? So right now I have my settings set to max, right? But if you go here to this tab, which is the settings, right? What's really slows down your computer is the viewport, right? So right now, this viewport, I can see shadows, I can see trees moving, I can see everything very clear, right? If I go to settings here, I can lower this, right now the editor quality is set to high. I can make it medium, right? The resolution is set to 100%, right? If I drop it to 66%, just watch what happens, how it changes. Let's go here. You see a difference there? Okay, let's drop it one more time to 50%.
Yeah, you could see on the gravel. It looks so and the bike.
And let's go to the lowest setting, right? 25%. Oops, sorry. Wrong button. Let me share. 25, and let's go back here. So this is the lowest setting, right? So even though the graphics look pretty crappy, right? It's saving your computer from crashing, right? And you can move here now very fast, When you render, it looks the same, It'll be just as good as, that it just, as you're looking around your space, because everything is much lower quality, you're not taking up all your computer graphics, memory, right? So you can work at the same speed as a much better computer, right? And when you do render, it will still look the same, right? So, you might have to modify these settings to, if I go here to the max here, and I go to back, now I see, very sharp, in a way it's giving you your viewport more quality, right? So where it has more or less, pixels, right? Let's see what else I'm trying to cover here. So I think that's all that I have. I mean, today was a kind of a big lecture, but it gives you guys a lot of things to work on, because obviously we don't have class next week, right? So I want you guys to, if possible, it'd be nice if everyone has the same house, right? So this way we can address the same problems, right? So I'm gonna save all the house data into your class folder, right? After the class ends, take that house, and you're gonna get the one that I didn't yet, group any items, right? So you can group it as you want. You can decide what things will be what material, right? And if you're not sure, just make more layers, right? More layers are better. So when you get here, you can really be precise in adding layers to this. I want you to work on a landscape, again, landscape will take a couple classes to get done, because think about it's your setting in the forest, what things you want to create here. Try the materials, all the different advanced options. Try to put different trees, different assets here, because before we took out all the other things. So you're free to put here tables, chairs, I wouldn't go putting in every single scene, right? Just think about what scenes are more important, right? So you can start to create, this, scene right here. And think of it like a game, right? You're making a game environment, right? And, as you, make something, go back to your keyboard and just fly through it, and just imagine if you were there, what this looks like, going down the stairs, the views you get here, you see all the forest. If you play games, it'll become like second nature, right? The keyboard is the exact same gaming controls. Your mouse is there just to look, right? So wherever I point, so if I click with my right mouse, I'm looking around, and with my W, I go forward. So I typically move my mouse at the same time as I hit W. So I can choose to go up, to go down. I'm flying to the whole space. And you can quickly get an experience of what the house looks like, from any point of view. Okay, any questions? No?
No.
Okay. Did today seem like too much for a class, or?
No, Professor.
I think, it's not bad. Once you guys get here, I think you find that actually it's fun to play with this, software. So, we have now plenty of time until I see you again. So, start working on this, try to do something like I have, feel free to change the landscape and do whatever you want, but we'll keep going in this, next class. Any questions, send me an email. I'll be happy to help. And I'll copy the house model after the lecture, and so you guys can start working if you want right away. All right, so before I end the lecture, any last minute questions?
Professor, you say you're going to send this file into the Dropbox, right?
Yes.
Okay, just want to
So
make sure.
let me just tell you guys so you know where I'm going to put it, right? So let me stop sharing for a second, and 1 second. Let me share my screen. All right, let me check here. So this is your class folder here, Arch 4709. Folder number 4 shows the reference files, right? I'm gonna make a new folder here called Lumion, right? So that you know that these files that I'm gonna add here will be inside this file. Oops. So look on the folder number 4, and inside Lumion, I'm gonna drop there that 3D Max file, right? Is everyone working on Max 2021? Or is anyone working on an older version of Max?
I'm working on the older version.
Okay, so then I put a file that is compatible with also yours. So I'll put like a 2019 file. So this way it should open on any 3D Max.
Yeah, I'm using the 2025, Professor.
2020?
Yes.
Okay, so then I'll save it from 2019. So it should be okay with any of your files. Okay. All right, guys. I think that's it for today's class. See you guys next time, and anything, let me know by email. All right, guys. Take care.
Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Professor.
Professor,
Yes.
can I talk to you privately?
Sure. So let's wait. So let me start recording. Okay.